Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the News Today edition of 3rd December. My name is Anuj and I will be taking session for today. So let us discuss the news we will be discussing for today. So we will be covering 5 main news, 8 quick updates and 1 personality in news. In main news, we will be covering about the parliamentary panel which has highlighted that there are systematic challenges with the working of IBC. In the second main news, we will be covering about the illegal immigrants as Supreme Court has ruled that illegal immigrants have no legal rights in India. In third main news, again we will be covering a parliamentary panel report which has highlighted adverse impact of rising medicine prices. In the fourth main news, we will be covering a report which has been published by FAO. The name of the report is The State of the World Land and Water Resources for Food and Agriculture 2025. In the last main news, we will be covering about the bioremediation as it provides a sustainable approach to environmental restoration. Then we will be quickly covering 8 quick updates, then 1 personality in news. Personality in news for today is Swargadeo, Chaolung, Sukapha. So this is a brief about today's session. Let us start with the first news. So what is the first news? The first news is that the parliamentary panel has highlighted the systematic challenges with the IBC. In this news, we will be briefly covering about IBC. What are the challenges which have been highlighted by the parliamentary panel and their resolution. Briefly, we will be also covering about the success of IBC till now. And it is related to GS paper 3, which talks about changes in industrial policy and their effect on industrial growth. As you might be aware that paper 3 is very dynamic in mains examination. So you have to be very thorough with the data and the example to write your answers in a very specific way that can enhance your marks in paper 3. So let us begin with the discussion of this news. We have briefly discussed the context. Now let us understand completely about the context. So Standing Committee on Finance in its 28th report has expressed concerns over the low recovery rate. We will be again discussing about the low recovery rate, but for now it is around 32%. The recovery rate is 32% in the IBC. So they have highlighted it and they have also talked about other issues which are there in the implementation of IBC 2016. Before moving further, let us briefly understand about IBC, which stands for Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. It was there or it came into effect by a committee which was known as T.K. Viswanathan Committee. So such types of facts are important for your prelims examination. And also read about what is the basic difference between insolvency and bankruptcy. It will make things clearer for you. Okay, and when we start insolvency, there is a defined procedure which has been established by this code. And why it was brought in? It was brought in because there was rising issue of non-performing asset in the Indian economy. If there are non-performing assets in Indian economy, it will hamper the overall growth of the country. Also, it was brought in to ease of doing business. Okay. And it established NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal. So suppose if there is a corporate, a creditor or the operational defaulter can reach NCLT, whereas in the case of an individual, they have to reach to debt recovery tribunals. It is an again important fact. NCLT, and debt recovery tribunals. NCLT are there for companies and corporate. Debt recovery tribunals are there for individuals. So that is a basic fact. Then they appoint insolvency professionals. Then they demand how this company can be revived, or if it cannot be revived, then it has to be liquidated. So there are two solutions under IBC. First, they try for revision. That means that company can be again brought back to life, or then if it cannot happen, then they liquidate it. That is the basic of IBC. Okay, and if someone has issue with the NCLT, if someone has issue with the NCLT process or orders, they can go to NCLAT, that is National Company Law Appellate Tribunals, or High Court and Supreme Courts. Okay, so please be very clear about basics whenever you are reading about a topic. Now we will look into the major findings of the reports. So first of all, the report has talked about the success and the behavioral change due to IBC. Okay, first it has talked about post-resolution revival. As I have already told you, there are two processes, one about resolution and another one is about liquidation. Okay, so they have observed that if some company has resolved, or that there are resolution, then there is a significant resolution after the revival, and they have supported it with the data as well. For example, they have said that the average sale increased about 76% in the following 3 years after the revival. Okay, and they have also said that the total asset of that company grow by around 50%. Please note down that the data is very important for your paper 3. Such type of fact won't be there in your prelims examination. But if you are writing your mains answer, then you have to support your points with the data and the examples. You can directly quote this data which has been given by the Standing Committee on Finance. Okay. Second, they have said that there is improved credit culture. That means the overdue time for the credit has been reduced from around 350 days to 90 days. That's an important advancement. Lastly, they have said that there has been increase in debt settlement outside the code. And why it has been there? Because this code has produced a deterrence effect. That's why the defaulters try to solve their debt. And there are debt settlement even outside the code. So these are the some successes which has been talked in the report. Now let us look into the challenges which are given in the report. First, they have talked about time overrun. Okay, in IBC, it is mandated that the whole process should be completed in 330 days. But they have observed that the time for completion of process is going to 750 days, which is more than the double which was mandated in the code. Secondly, they have talked about low realization and excessive haircut. When we were discussing the context, we have talked about the low realization. It was about 32%. And what is the meaning of haircut? It is not simply haircut, but it is the amount foregone by the banks or the creditors to come to a solution. Suppose a bank has given a loan to a company around 100 rupees. Now that company is saying that I can't repay this loan. So they will forego some amount so that that company can pay the debt. But the report has highlighted that the banks are giving a massive haircut. For example, in some cases, around 95% of debt was foregone by the banks. That is another issue, excessive haircuts. Haircuts as a term is also important for your prelims examination. Okay. Lastly, they have talked about jurisdictional conflict, and where jurisdictional conflicts are happening. One, between the IBC and the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, that is delaying the complete process. Okay, so this was about the challenges given in the report. Now they have provided some recommendations as well. We will look into the recommendations. So first recommendation, they have said that there is need to increase the institutional capacity. For that, there should be more benches of NCLT. Okay, this is very important, NCLT. Okay, there should be more benches for NCLTs, and also the notification for educating authority rules should be very clear. Okay, that is the first recommendation given by the report. Secondly, the report has talked about process streamlining. In this, the report has talked about two things. One, integrated technology platform that will act as a central platform which will provide the information required in the transparent way. Secondly, the report talks about an upfront threshold deposit so that the frivolous request should not be there. Okay, these are the two recommendations given under this process streamlination. Thirdly, the report talks about enhancing value realization. Okay, that means sometimes when the companies are coming to the IBC code, IBC, the assets value is decreasing a lot. That means they are coming when the asset value is under a lot of stress. So they are saying this value realization should be higher. For that, there should be more competitive bidding, as well as there should be more transparency in the complete process. So this was all about the first news. We will look into the PYQ related to this news. First of all, there is no direct PYQ related to this news, but whenever you are writing answers regarding NPAs, ease of doing business in India, you can write about IBC code. Or there can be a directly question in the mains examination. What are the successes of the IBC? What are the challenges in front of IBC? What are the key recommendation, or how it can be further improved? Okay, so there can be a direct question. One question is there in 2017, but it is not directly related to issue of IBC, but it is related to issue of NPAs and the credit in the market. And the question is, which of the following statement best describe the term scheme for sustainable structuring of stressed assets recently seen in the news? So I think this was brought in 2017, and the question is there in 2017 itself. And the options are: A, it is a procedure for considering ecological cost of development scheme formulated by the government. Option B, it is a scheme of RBI for reworking the financial structure of big corporate entities facing genuine difficulties. I hope you might have guessed the answer, and answer is B for this one. So this was all about the first news. Let us move to the second news for today. So second news is related to illegal migrants, and the context is that the Supreme Court has ruled that illegal migrants have no legal rights in India. This has been said in the context of Rohingyas. Okay, we will learn about it in the later strides, and it is related to GS paper 2, which talks about important aspect of governance. It is also related to internal security. Okay, when we will be solving the PYQ, we will be looking into the factors how internal security is disturbed by illegal migrants. Okay, so now let us move to the discussion of this news. As we have already discussed about the context in brief, the complete context is that the while hearing a habeas corpus petition, and what this writ petition is there for, it is there for illegal detentions, and those detainees should be brought before the court. In this, while hearing this petition, court has observed that the benefit and amenities should be concentrated on citizen and not on the illegal migrants. Okay, whenever you are reading such news, try to learn more about the context, because then it will become like a story for you and you can remember it for a long time. The complete issue here was that the petitioner was asking for the Rohingyas which were held by the Delhi police and want to know about their whereabouts. These observations are for overall illegal migrants. So now we will move to the basics observation by the Supreme Court. First of all, Supreme Court has said that there is no legal status of Rohingyas as refugees. Okay, that is the first observation of the Supreme Court. Court has challenged that the classification of Rohingyas are not there as refugees. Okay, so we will be learning about the recognition of refugees in the next slide. Secondly, the Supreme Court has said there is no obligation for illegal entrants. What it means, that Supreme Court has said that when a person enters India illegally, so there he is or she is breaking the laws. Then he or she cannot expect that the laws will be applied when he or she will be living in India. That does not mean that humanitarian law won't apply, but laws such as Article 19(1), that means right to settle and reside, that won't apply to the illegal migrants. Okay, that is not applicable for non-citizen. That is applicable only for the citizens. When you are discussing such news, there should also be a question such as what is legal versus what is moral. Okay, UPSC has asked question on such issues, like suppose some law is legal, but is it moral? The another example for this is marital rapes. Whenever you are reading news, please broaden your thinking and think in a more holistic perspective. Okay. Lastly, Supreme Court has said that India already have national priorities and securities. That means Supreme Court has said that we are already having a lot of poor people, and on the national resources, the right for those citizens is higher. Okay, so their rights should be matched first rather than the illegal migrants. And there are security concerns as well. And Supreme Court has pointed out especially security concern in the northeastern region of India. Okay, so these were the observation of Supreme Court in this case. Now let us move to the next slide. And we will know about the legal provision related to refugees. First of all, let us understand about international laws. There is a convention regarding the refugees, that is 1951 Refugees Convention. Okay, and it defines refugees. India has not signed this convention nor a protocol related to this. And the reason for India for not signing this convention is that it is Eurocentric. That means it does not consider the situation of third world countries. This convention or this protocol was majorly there for the European or the developed countries. That was one of the reasons that India has not signed this convention or the protocol related to this convention. That is an important fact. Secondly, India accepts the principle of non-refoulement as a norm. Okay, what is the meaning of non-refoulement? That means we won't send back the refugees in a country where there are chances of persecution. Okay, we have many examples. According to the numbers given by the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, we have refugees from Sri Lanka, which are highest. Okay, then we have refugees from Tibet as well. Those are second highest. Okay, we follow this principle, the principle of non-refoulement. Now we will look into the domestic laws related to the illegal migrants. Okay, so basically these are governed by the Foreigner Act of 1946 and Citizenship Act of 1955. In Citizenship Act, illegal migrants are of two types. One who comes to the country illegally. Secondly, who comes to the country on the valid papers, but they overstayed in our country. Those are also known as illegal migrants. Okay. Secondly, there are ad hoc mechanism for refugee status in India. That means there is no legal framework, but there are executive and administrative channels which provide flexibility to India. In this, the management is divided into two. One is Ministry of Home Affairs. It directly manages Sri Lankan refugee and Tibetan refugee. And remaining refugees are managed by United Nations High Commission of Refugees. So these are the two management under India. Okay. And India has granted refugee status to Tibetan refugees, Sri Lankan refugees, Chakma and Hezong refugees. These are the refugees from Bangladesh when it was known as East Pakistan. So this was all about this news. Let us discuss PYQ related to this news. So first, PYQ is very easy and it is there from 2016 prelims. And the question is, consider the following pairs. On left hand side, community sometime mentioned in the news, and on the right side, it is in affair of. First, Kurds, it is mentioned against Bangladesh. Then Madhesis, it is mentioned against Nepal. Then Rohingyas, mentioned against Myanmar. These two options are correct. Then the answer will be C, 2 and 3. There is one mains question as well. It is from 2014. And the question is, how does illegal trans-border migration pose a threat to India's security? Discuss the strategy to curb this, bringing out the factor which give impetus to such migration. This is a direct question, how illegal migrants followed or pose a threat to India. Okay, so this was all about this news. Let us move to the third news for today. So the third news is about the pricing of medicine. And the context here is that the parliamentary panel has highlighted the adverse impact of rising medicine cost on the citizen. In this news, we will be learning about scheduled drugs, non-scheduled drugs, how prices are monitored of medicine in India. Okay, and what are the highlights given in this report. It is related to GS paper 2, which talks about issues related to poverty and hunger. We can also link it to the GS paper 3, which talks about inclusive growth. So let us move to the discussion of this news. We have already discussed the context, but let us discuss in this detail. The Standing Committee on Chemicals and Fertilizers has raised concerns over excessive profiteering, delayed policy reforms, and the absence of effective legal mechanism to ensure affordable access to essential drugs. Okay, there is a national list on essential drugs. Okay, it is maintained by Ministry of Health, and it was last time updated in 2022. Okay, and it is based on the WHO's model list. So this is about essential list, and the Standing Committee on Chemical and Fertilizer has raised concern over the rising price of medicines in India. Okay, now let us move and discuss about their observation, what the Standing Committee has found out. First of all, they have found out that medicines are costly due to huge profit margin. They have said that in some cases, there was cases that the profit was up to 500. Now think how much cost it will increase. For a common person, it is very difficult to get medicine or treatment in India. Okay, we fear a lot. If someone is ill in the family, we fear a lot to take them to the hospital. And one of the reason, the most common reason, is that the high price of treatment in India. Okay, they have pointed out it. And secondly, they have talked about that price control apply only to the some medicine. Okay, medicines are basically divided into schedule and non-schedule drugs. You might have heard these terms in banking as well, schedule banks and non-schedule banks. Okay, but here the meaning is different. Here it means DPCO, Drugs Price Control Order of 2013, maintain a schedule of Schedule 1, which include the scheduled medicines. It also include non-scheduled medicine, but they are not under the price control. But their overall rise in the price is controlled by DPCO. That does not mean that non-scheduled medicines are not price control, but their price control is limited to rise in the price control. And for scheduled drugs, the price control is on the overall method. So this they have pointed out, and they have said that only medicine listed as essential under the national list of essential medicines are price control. They also include the scheduled medicines. And they have said that other medicines such as non-scheduled drugs are not effectively price control. They have also observed that there is weak transparency in pricing. Okay, one retailer to another retailer, they are changing their profit margin. That's why there is a lack of transparency in pricing. Lastly, they have talked about trade margin rationalization. Okay, what is the meaning of this trade margin rationalization? Okay, when there is a supply chain for medicine from the manufacturer to the customer, there are a lot of parties involved, and basically wholesaler and retailers are also involved. So under this trade margin rationalization, the trade margin or the profit margin for the wholesaler as the retailers is defined. Okay, so that's why it leads to better and cost effectiveness of the prices. They have said that this method was very successful in the case of cancers, but we have not formed a trade margin rationalization policy for the other drugs. That are the observation under this report. Now we will look into the key recommendation regarding these things. First of all, they have talked about the trade margin rationalization. We have already talked about trade margin rationalization. So they have said that make trade margin rationalization a legal and permanent tool. In the last slide, we have talked that in the case of cancer, this policy was very effective. So they are saying that it should be a legal and a permanent tool to control the price of medicine. Secondly, they have talked about control non-scheduled drugs prices. As non-scheduled drugs also includes the generic medicine, they are saying that the focus should not only there on the scheduled drugs. It should also be there on the non-scheduled drugs prices. That's why the overall medicine cost can come down. In the third, they have said that reduce and monitor the stunt prices. Okay, you might be knowing about the stunt. Okay, they are there, which is used in the heart surgeries. Okay, there are other uses for stunts as well, but basically and mostly they are used in the heart. So they are saying that there should be reduction in the cost of stunts. Lastly, they have said that make cancer drugs pricing more transparent. Okay. Still, the cancer pricing or the treatment related to cancer is very opaque. In some hospital, the injection cost can be up to 50,000 to 1 lakh. And the whole chemo process can cost you around 20 to 30 lakhs. Okay, so they are saying that make cancer drugs pricing and treatment more transparent. So this was the key recommendations to make the medicines more cost effective. Now we will look into the pricing policy of drugs and the drugs regulatory and the institutional framework. First of all, Department of Pharmaceutical, which is under Union Ministry of Chemical and Fertilizers. Please be very clear, it is not under Ministry of Health. Sometimes UPSC gives such types of statement that Department of Pharmaceutical is there under Ministry of Health. If you don't know about its fact, you will think that it's an correct statement. The second institution under this is National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority. It decides the prices for the essential drugs. Okay, and it is an independent body formed under DPCO. We have already discussed about DPCO, that is Drugs Price Control Order of 2013. Lastly, there is National Pharmaceutical Pricing Policy of 2012, and it aims that the medicine become affordable in India. So these are the drugs regulators and the institutional framework of drugs pricing in India. So this was all about this news. So the PYQ is not directly related to this news, but it is related to medicines in India. The question is from 2019 mains, and the question is, how is the government of India protecting traditional knowledge of medicine from patenting by pharmaceutical companies? So to answer this, you should be knowing about what is the meaning of traditional knowledge and what are the medicines under the traditional knowledge, and how government is protecting traditional knowledge so that they cannot be patented by the pharmaceutical companies. That is the core demand of this question. So this was all about the third news. Let us move to the fourth news for today. So the fourth news for today is about the FAO report, and the name of the report is the state of the world's lands and water resources for food and agriculture. So basically it talked about sustainable agriculture, and it is related to GS paper 3, which talks about agriculture, and you can also say that it is related to sustainable development of paper 3. We have discussed the context. Let us move to the news. Okay, so this report is published every 2 years by FAO, and it focuses on hidden and untapped potential of land, soil, and water resources. So this was basic about this report. Suppose there is a question in the prelims examination about this report, then such type of information will be important as it is published by FAO. It is published every 2 years, and its basic aim is to focus on hidden and untapped potential of land, soil, and water resources. Now coming to the key highlight of this report. Before understanding the key highlight, let us understand how the production can be increased from the agriculture. First of all, you can increase the productivity. Productivity in the agriculture. Secondly, you can increase the land so that the farmers have the larger land to get agriculture produce. So this report has particularly said that the land cannot be further expanded for the agriculture. That is the basic highlight of this report, that we have reached to a point that there is no further enlargement of the agriculture land. Okay. So this was the first key highlight. And we have also talked and we have discussed how the production from the agriculture can be increased. Now let us discuss the key highlights. First, it has talked about the key challenges. It has said that by 2050, by increase in global population, the requirement of the food will increase by 50%. By when we will compare it to the data of 2012. As agriculture is dependent on water, and there will be 25% more requirement of fresh water. So that is the core challenge which is highlighted by the report. And the report has said that the over 60% of human induced land degradation is because of agriculture. What is the meaning of land degradation? Basically, land degradation means that the productivity and usage of land is decreased. It can be ridden or it can be led by the humans as well as by the nature. So 60% of human induced land degradation occurs due to agriculture. Even nature lead to the land degradation such as droughts or soil erosion. Okay, such factor also lead to land degradation. Secondly, the report has said that the agriculture account for more than 70% of global freshwater withdrawal. And this is not given in the report, which I will be saying now. But in case of India, more than 80% of fresh water is used in agriculture. And when we talk about the groundwater, the point is that we use around 87% of groundwater for agriculture. Okay. Lastly, they have said that the intensive agriculture practices. There are two types of agriculture based on the farm size. One is intensive, another one is extensive. So intensive farming is basically the farming which is there in India, that is done on the small land size. So they are saying that intensive agriculture practices are leading to unsustainable use of chemicals increasingly. Okay, so these are the key highlights given in the report. Now let us move to the next slide. So in the same report, they have talked about the potential for sustainable agriculture production. How we can produce agriculture products sustainably. Firstly, they have talked about increased land productivity. As we have already talked that it is given in the report that there are no chances or there is no viability to increase the land for the agriculture. The other option is to increase the land productivity, and it can be increased by reducing the yield gap and selecting the resilient crops, that is climate resilient crops. Secondly, it talks about increasing the productivity of rain-fed agriculture. What is rain-fed agriculture? Basically, the agriculture which is dependent on rain for its irrigation is known as rain-fed agriculture. And they are saying that it's need to be scaled up. And how it can be scaled up? By conservation agriculture and drought resilient practices. And they have given an example from India. That is, in Gorakhpur, the management of effective microorganism has effectively increased the productivity in that area. Okay, they have also talked about other method. They have also talked about integrated system in agriculture. And they have given the example of agroforestry as well as rice fish farming. Okay, if you know about rice production, you might be knowing that there is requirement of water up to a certain level. So they are saying that in that water there can be fishing. Okay, if you are following newspaper more comprehensively, you might be knowing that in Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, they have included floods of rice as a calamity. Okay, so that is related to another news, but they have talked about integrated system in agriculture. Lastly, they have talked about institutional capacity development through various programs such as extension approaches, including the training program like Farmer Field Schools. It is a program of FAO, and in this program, they provide the training to the farmers in the crops or in the field so that the productivity can increase. And they have given the example of the Andhra Pradesh that this approach has supported the community managed natural farming initiative. Okay, so this was all about this news. Let us discuss a PYQ related to this news. So PYQ is there from 2022, and the question is, what is integrated farming system and how it is helpful to the small and marginal farmers in India? So basically, you should know about integrated farming system. We have discussed that in the news and how it will benefit the small and marginal farmers in India. Okay, so this was all about the fourth news for today. Let us move to the fifth news. And the fifth news is about bioremediation. And the news is that bioremediation provide a sustainable approach to environmental restoration. In this news, we will be learning about bioremediation, its type, and how it is beneficial for environmental restoration. It is related to GS paper 3, which talks about sustainable development. Okay. Now let us move to the discussion for this news. The context we have already discussed briefly, but the context is that the bioremediation is emerging as a low cost and key sustainable tool for India's worsening pollution crisis. So that is the context of this news. Let us understand about the bioremediation. So the basic meaning of bioremediation is restoring life by using biology. That is the meaning of bioremediation. But if you have to write the definition in the examination, its definition is that it is the process of treating and detoxifying environmental contamination such as heavy metals, oil that can be in soil, water, and other environmental by taking advantage of natural biological process. So naturally environment try to clean itself, but we humans have polluted environment so much that the natural process of environment cleaning is not happening. So by this bioremediation, we try to take advantage of that process and try to clean the environment. So its basic type can be or it can be done using plant, which is known as phytoremediation, using microbes, that is known as biostimulation, using fungi, that is known as mycoremediation, then even animals such as fish, which is known as biomanipulation. So these terms can be there in examination and there can be match the following types of question. Now coming to the type of bioremediation. So there are two type of bioremediation. One is in situ, another one is ex situ. So suppose there is contamination here. If I am treating the contamination here itself, it will be known as in situ. And suppose I am transferring this contamination to my right hand and there I am treating that contamination, that will be known as ex situ bioremediation. Okay, and example for in situ are oil eating bacteria like oil vapor sprayed on the spills. Okay, you might be knowing about oil spill in the marine environment. Then there are example of ex situ as well, like the biopiles, bioreactor composition, etc. So this was about the bioremediation. Now let us discuss about the significance of bioremediation. First of all, its affordability. Okay, so traditional cleanup methods are very costly when compared to the bioremediation. Secondly, its ecosystem restoration. So it does not lead to secondary pollutants and it lead to better environmental restoration. Thirdly, rich microbial diversity. As you might be aware that India is a microbial diverse country. That's why India can adapt to the strains on basis of the microbes which are present locally. So these are basic significance of bioremediation. Now let us look into the challenges related to bioremediation. First of all, there is risk of ecological imbalance. Why? We are even producing genetically modified microbials which are effectively or which are produced for a specific type of contamination. Suppose that contamination is treated, even then those microbes will be there and they will impact the overall ecological balance. Secondly, the rate of treatment in bioremediation is very slow. So the process requires a lot of patience. That's why industries and cities often prefer faster solution. Lastly, there is lack of standard protocols in India as we do not have unified bioremediation standards in India. So it is very difficult for prototyping or standardization of bioremediation in India. So these were the challenges related to its application. Now let us look into the India's effort. First of all, clean technology program. So under this program, the Department of Biotechnology funds bioremediation. So under this program, that is Clean Technology Program, the Department of Biotechnology provide funds for bioremediation. Secondly, there are collaborations as well, like CSIR and NERI. IITs and universities are developing microbials technology and material for oil spill and other types of contamination. There is one PYQ related to the oil pollution that we will be discussing in the next slide. Okay. Lastly, there is the Fermentation Technology Research Center, which has been established by TERI, which stands for the Energy and Resource Institution, which have established this center, and it support large scale production of microbe product used in bioremediation. So these are the some efforts which are taken by India for bioremediation. Now let us discuss PYQ related to this news. Okay, this PYQ is from 2023. Okay, this PYQ is not directly related to this news, but these steps or bioremediation can be written in the conclusion of this question. And the question is, what is oil pollution? What are its impact on marine ecosystem? In what way oil pollution particularly harmful for a country like India? These are the requirement in the question, and what we have discussed in the question that can be written in the conclusion of this question. Okay, so this was all about the main news for today. So personality in news for today is Swargadeo, Chaolung, Sukapha. And what is the context? The context is that the Prime Minister of India has greeted people of Assam on Assam Divas or Sukapha Divas. In this news, we will be learning about Sukapha. So basically, he was a prince from Thai kingdom of Myanmar, that is there in China. And he was not given his throne. That's why he migrated for around 13 years and entered India in around 1228. Okay, and he established the Ahom kingdom. It is one of the powerful regional kingdom. You can read about Ahom kingdom in regional kingdom in given in your NCRTs. Okay, and he has declared capital as Chaolung in 1253 CE. Okay, basically it included the whole part of Brahmaputra Valley, and they have ruled for around 600 years. Okay, but Britishers have annexed them in 1826 for a brief period of time, but later in 1836 they have annexed them completely, and they were subjugated under the British till the independence in say 1947. Okay, so this was about Ahom kingdom. And Thai people under the leadership of 39 king formed a united nationality known as Assamese with unified language, that is Assamese. So this was all about the personality in news for today. Let us discuss the quick update for today. First quick update is about Navratna status. And what is the context for this news? The context is that the Numaligarh Refinery Limited, which is there in Assam, has been accorded with the Navratna status. When you read about Navratna status, don't think that there are only 9 CPSCs which are granted the Navratna. There are around 27 CPECs. Okay, 27 or it might be 28, but basically 9 Navratnas are not there, which can be a misnomer by the name of the Navratnas. Okay, now what is the criteria for granting Navratna status? First of all, a CPSC, that is Central Public Sectoral Enterprises, should be a Mini Ratna 1. So basically it should have a status of Mini Ratna 1. Secondly, it should have obtained an excellent or very good MOU rating in the 3 of the last 5 years. That means in the last 5 years, in the 3 years, this rating should be excellent or very good. Last criteria is that it should have a composite score of 60 or above in selected performance indicators, and these indicators can include such as net profit to net worth, earning per share, profit before interest and taxes to turnovers. So this was about the first quick update. Let us move to the second quick update. Second quick update is about the company's specification of definition detail amendment rule of 2025. And what is the context? The context is that the Union Ministry of Corporate Affairs has notified revised definition for small companies under it, and it is effective from December 1. Okay, basically from last 2 days it is effective. And what is the rule? That a company will qualify as a small company if its paid capital is not exceeding 10 crore and its turnover is not exceeding 100 crore. And previously it was there that its paid capital should be up to 4 crore and turnover till 40 crores. And Union Ministry has done it so that they can avail the benefit which are provided to the small companies. So this was all about the second quick update. So the next quick update is about domestic systematically important banks. And the context is that the RBI has identified State Bank of India, HDFC Bank and ICICI Bank as domestic systematically important bank in its 2025 list. So we will be learning about domestic systematically important banks in this news. So first of all, they are identified by Reserve Banks of India. And what is their importance? Their importance is that if there is failure in these banks, it will lead to it will hamper the overall economy of India. And they are considered too big to fail. That is the basic about these domestic systematically important banks. Lastly, they should maintain an additional common equity tier 1. Tier 1 is the core of banking capital. Okay, and for them it is required over and above the regular requirement because they should not fail. So this was all about this quick update. Now let us move to the next quick update for today. So the next quick update is about Ombudsman scheme. And what is the context? The context is that the credit cards have become the largest source of customer grievances under the Reserve Bank integrated Ombudsman scheme. Okay, in the same news report, it has given that the customer grievances related to ATMs have decreased, and the customer grievances of the private banks related to credit cards are higher, significantly higher when we compare to the public banks. Now let us discuss about this scheme of our Reserve Bank of India. So basically its objective was to provide a speedy and a cost-effective alternative dispute resolution mechanism for customer of regulated entities, and it include all commercial bank, regional rural banks as well as NBFCs and credit information companies. Okay, and it has integrated the 3 ombudsman scheme which was related to banking, related to NBFCs and related to the digital transaction. So basically it adopted the aim of one nation, one ombudsman approach. Okay, so this was all about this news. The next quick update is about Biological Weapon Convention. And the context for this news is that India has called for strengthened biosecurity at the 50th anniversary of Biological Weapon Convention. In this news, we will be covering about the Biological Weapon Convention. First of all, let us discuss about its objective. Okay, its objective is that it effectively prohibits the development, production, acquisition, transfer, stockpiling, and use of biological and toxic weapons. Basically, what are biological weapons? So, biological weapons are the weapons such as microbes or toxin which are transmitted so that they can increase the risk of contagious diseases. Okay, so it can basically harm in the situation of war. It can also affect the food security. It can also be targeted against a individuals. Okay, and it was the first multilateral disarmament treaty banning the entire category of weapon of mass destruction. This is an extreme statement. What it does say? It says that it was the first multilateral disarmament treaty banning the entire category of weapons of mass destruction. And how many members are there in this? There are around 187 state parties, including India. And it is a legally binding treaty, which is administered by United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs. Okay, so this was all about this news. Let us move to the next quick update. So the next quick update is about Hornbill. And the context for this news is that the Nagaland have started celebrating its 10-day long flagship festival event, the Hornbill Festival. So in this news, we will be briefly covering about the festival as well as the Hornbill bird. Now let us first understand about the festival. So basically it is named after the hornbill, a culturally respective birds in Naga's folklores. Okay, and it promotes the inter-tribal interactions as well as showcases and preserves the cultural heritage of the Nagaland tribals. Now let us coming to the hornbill as a bird. First of all, they are tropical birds named for their unusually large curved bill and a horn-like projection called casque on the top of their beak. They are also known as farmers of the forest. And what is the reason that they are known as farmers of the forest? Because they spread seeds like farmers. That's why they are known as farmers of the forest. There are around 9 types of hornbills in India, which also include great hornbill, Narcodum hornbill, Malabar grey hornbill, etc. I think in 2016 there was a question about great hornbill in the UPSC prelims examination. Okay. Now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about the Alaknanda galaxy. You might read about Alaknanda and Bhagirathi meeting at the Devprayag in your geography. But the news here is about Alaknanda galaxy. Okay, and the context is that the Indian researchers have discovered a massive spiral galaxy named Alaknanda using NASA's James telescope. So basically it is a very old galaxy which should be scattered, but Indian researchers have found that it has a shape of spiral, which is an unusual phenomena for the ancient galaxies. Okay, so this was their finding basically, and now coming to spiral galaxies. So these galaxies resembles giant rotating pinwheels with a pancake-like disk of star basically. And they are surrounded by halos, mixture of old star clusters as well as the dark matter. So the important fact is here that the name of the galaxy, that is Alaknanda galaxy, and Indian researchers have used James Webb telescope, which is of NASA's, and it is in the form of spiral. These are the important facts from this news. Now let us move to the next quick update. So the next quick update is about cyber slavery. It is continuously there in the newspapers. And the context here is that over the last few years, Southeast Asian countries like Myanmar, Cambodia and Laos have emerged as the major hub for cyber slavery. In this news, we will be understanding about the meaning of cyber slavery. Basically, it is a form of modern day human slavery in which the humans are trafficked from one country to the another in the lure of the jobs, false jobs, and they are forcibly forced to carry out the online scams. So this is the basic about cyber slavery. There can be a question in the prelims examination where such terms can be given, that what is the meaning of cyber slavery. There can be 4 statements and this statement will become the correct answer for that question. And now coming to the procedure or the working of this cyber slavery. First of all, there is a deception that victims are promised jobs in other country. Then their document are confiscated so that they cannot travel back. Then they are forced to commit the online criminal works. Lastly, they are physically and psychologically abused to carry out this work. So this was all about the quick updates for today. which ends our discussion for today. To read further about current affairs and to solve smart quizzes, you can visit our digital current affairs website, and please solve the quiz which is available or visible on your screen. Thank you and all the best for your preparation.